Hi YouTube, this is my first video, and yes, I am reading this as I felt it was too important to risk leaving anything out. I felt the need to make this video in response to all the prepping videos flowing about the internet. I'm not here to criticize them at all. Most of them put a lot of time, effort, and money into their research and information, and for short-term survival there is an abundance of great information, and I regularly watch their videos. But very few focus on long-term survival. And one of my most recently watched put out a video recommending large groups for what is upcoming. More and more are seeing the benefits of a community versus a lone wolf mentality. With all the information out there, it is very easy to get lost in the prepping craze that is flowing about the internet these days. With the state of our great country and the world, you do not have to be a rocket scientist to realize that things in the near future will radically change. Personally, I am most worried about the collapse of our own economy and the EROL, excessive rule of law, that will follow. You hear a lot of talk about WROL, which stands for without rule of law. Though not many or enough, in my opinion, mention EROL, or excessive rule of law, that will have to follow. Watch the news. Check out the YouTube videos about all that is happening, not only in the world, but specifically here in the U.S. Have you heard of J-Helm 15? How about the row upon row of military vehicles that have been positioned about the country? How about the FEMA camps? In my opinion, it appears that our government is prepping for the civil unrest that is undoubtedly in our near future. And this is how I picture the events unfolding in the not-too-distant future. First, the U.S. dollar will collapse, as well as a good majority of the economies of the rest of the world. Our government believes that it can just print all the money it needs to pay the interest on our debts and to fund all of the bailouts that we've had in recent years. Has it even occurred to you why there's so much talk, especially with the IMF, which stands for the International Monetary Fund, about replacing the U.S. dollar as the world's currency? Look at all the countries around the world stockpiling gold. China has by far bought more gold than any other country that I have heard of. Anyone hear of the U.S. buying and restocking our depleted gold supplies? Not to mention, I'm not going to get into economics here. I'm not an economist or even an accountant. Though, if you have any doubt where our economy is headed, all you have to do is look through history at every other country that has done what ours has been doing for the last 30, 40, 50 years, and you will see that they all eventually fell. To be totally honest, it wasn't for our military power, not to mention the fact that the U.S. dollar is currently the world's currency, it would have fallen a long time ago. A lot of us were alive when the British pound was the world's currency. Look at what happened to their economy when they were no longer propped up by that position. There are many, many more examples, but I'll leave you to look those up if you so desire. This is the picture of what I see happening in the next few years. Our economy will collapse, either through it being replaced as the world's currency, or the sheer weight of our country's wanton printing of the money it needs to cover its debts, or just the simple fact that the powers that be are ready for it to happen. Either way, it will be its end. When the U.S. dollar collapses, what will follow? Below in the description is a link to economic collapses throughout history, though I specifically linked the Wikipedia page for the 20th century, but if you want to go really in depth, it goes as far back as the 3rd century and up to the 21st century. When our economy collapses, prices will fly through the ceiling, interest rates will take off faster than a Saturn V rocket. The vast majority of the country will not be able to afford to feed their families, let alone clothe and house them. When people start to go hungry and no longer can afford their comfortable beds, they will start to get increasingly violent as the hunger and loss of their lives as they knew them grows with each passing hour. How long are parents going to listen to their children wailing due to hunger before otherwise upstanding, law-abiding people start to do whatever it takes to ease their family's pain? That is when the rioting and looting will start. Stores and homes, taking by force what they need to provide for their families. The wealthy will be arrogantly sitting back thinking to themselves that they don't care. They can pay $1,000 for a loaf of bread and for a gallon of milk. Word to the wise, especially to the wealthy. If you're not among the elite, the Bilderbergs, as I have come to call them, that will be sheltered by our government, then you probably will not survive. The masses are not going to sit and buy idly and loot and pillage homes in the slums. Oh no. They're going to go to the wealthiest areas that they can get within reasonable distance of their homes and take by force what they need. Sure, a few will die in the attempt because the wealthy can afford the security and weapons to try and protect themselves, but rest assured eventually your bullets will run out, and the masses will not take lightly to all the trouble that they had to go through to get your stuff. We then should have a month or so of what I referred to and what is called all over the internet as shit hits the fan, or WROL, without rule of law. However you wish to describe it, this is basically where morality breaks down and it becomes survival of the fittest, to put it simply. There are a lot of videos and talk about the internet of SHTF and WROL. You can find them everywhere. This will grow in intensity during the second day, though possibly in areas as soon as the same day as the economy goes down. The violence will grow with intensity with each passing day until anarchy reigns supreme. I hope it will not last that long, though it could be up to a month or more. This is where EROL, or excessive rule of law, kicks in. And everything they have been leading us towards for the last 100 or so years, though recently with increasing urgency, will come into play. Now, with the knowledge of how much ammo the Department of Homeland Security has purchased, something in the neighborhood of 4 to 6 rounds for every single American, and the militarization of our police, just look at all the shiny military vehicles that most police forces now have, especially in the bigger cities. Research the building and active staffing of FEMA camps, also called Family Relocation Centers, about the country. And yes, the info and videos are available all over the internet to prove these do exist. Former Governor Jesse Ventura did a great piece on them in an episode of his show Conspiracy Theory. You can find it on YouTube titled The Banned Episode, and I bet after you watch it you'll have no doubt as to exactly why it was banned. How about the division of America into zones? Let's not forget about Jade Helm 15 and the placement of military vehicles about the country. They have them stockpiled in various places by the thousands. Let's also not to forget to mention the good old RFID chip that will improve your life in so many ways. Not to mention give the powers that be your exact location at all times, and lots of other useful information. And also the national passport, which has recently been talked about with increasing urgency. Both are supposed to be fully implemented by the summer of 2016. And no, that wasn't an international passport, it was national. Just like the good old Soviet Union and Nazi Germany, you'll need travel papers to travel outside your local area. Hopefully you will not need one if you stay in your home state, but it may go as far as county, possibly even city, though I doubt it, depending on how tight of reins they want over their local populace. Let's not forget to mention the current conflict in Syria and all the international tensions growing out of that. Now I lost my place. There we go. And let's not forget they're doing all these things to help us, to make us feel safe and secure. Yeah, right. Tell me some more. This is when our government kicks in, when the chaos hits its peak, and EROL will roar into action. The Department of Homeland Security, the police, and yes, our own military will kick in and lock this country down so tight you won't be able to pass gas without them knowing exactly what you had for dinner last night. They will just roll in and be the saviors, bringing peace and security to the area. Taking the very last of our constitutional rights, all in the name of making you feel safe and secure. Hopefully a large number of them remember their oath they took upon their entrance into the military to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that they will not obey the unconstitutional orders that will undoubtedly be given by their superior officers, which, if you haven't been keeping up on news, because it isn't on the majority of news networks. Those positions of authority in the military that will not follow or give unconstitutional orders have been replaced with those that will. This, my friends, is where all the recent ever-tightening gun laws and infringements on our constitutional rights and all the executive orders passed without congressional approval come into play. The ever-tightening gun control, if not outright confiscation, which, by the way, has been tossed about, even if it means a limited civil war. Can anyone guess when and where these things have happened in history? The control of the press, the ever-increasing control over free speech. Have you ever wondered why over the last decade, maybe even a little longer, the speaking politically correct has grown by leaps and bounds? Is it really to keep people's poor little feelers from being hurt? Or do you think it may be conditioning the sheeples into thinking and speaking and acting certain ways? How about the recent racial tensions and intentional racial divisions that are being force-fed the public? Jesus, people, look past the color of our person's skin and realize that below the exterior we're all the same. Though the government and media hype racial divisions and inequality almost daily, the good old divide and conquer at its finest. Hopefully some of these examples, and yes, there are many, many more, will get some people, though I have recently taken to calling them sheepos, to realize that our government is conditioning and preparing us for a police state, just like it's in several other countries have done to their populace in the past, though I am done comparing us to them. Now don't get me wrong, I love this country. I am a U.S. Marine, honorably discharged many moons ago. My son has carried on the tradition and is also a U.S. Marine. I believe in what this country was based and founded on, the core principles behind our Declaration of Independence, our beloved Constitution, though I'm not really fond of how the government has changed it over the years, the Bill of Rights. I am just very disappointed where we willingly allowed ourselves to be led, and all the sheeples that just follow along with it. Sorry, let's get back to my point. Those caught looting, etc., after the implementation of EROL will be dealt with extreme force. No warning shots here, boys and girls. Yes, the violence will continue for a time until people realize that they will be killed for nonconformity. Travel will be controlled. No more going here or there because the mood strikes you without proper documentation. There is already talk, as I mentioned earlier, of needing a national passport for travel about the country. If you travel without the proper papers, you will at least be arrested and more than likely placed in a FEMA camp. Worst case, let's just say they don't have that huge stockpile of plastic coffins with random lawn decorations. A lot of people out there don't think that this can or will happen in this country, but don't fool yourself, sheeples, it can. And it will. They've been put into motion for a long time. Look at the past. Look at all the other economic collapses that have ever happened, and the rioting, looting, yes, murder for basic necessities that happened there. Go on YouTube, look up some of the videos from recent collapses. And now picture those same scenarios, food riots, etc., in the most heavily armed populace on the planet. They have tried to restrict our firearms, but I think they have met more resistance on that issue than the powers that be anticipated, though they are gaining their way slowly but surely. An economic collapse here and the aftermath will make what happened in those countries look like a cute kid's cartoon on a Sunday, Saturday morning. Will our economy recover? I honestly believe it will. In the vast majority of cases, not only have the economies recovered, but they came back even stronger than ever. Though I fear our country will never truly be the same. Best case scenario, it will take us years to recover. And I have every confidence in our ability to recover, but it will take literally years. What I'm getting at here is how long can your personal preps, even small group preps, prepare you to survive without FEMA or government handouts that will not be enough for your family's or loved ones' needs anyways. If you cannot survive without assistance and make do with the rations you are given, then it will be time for you to be taken to a FEMA camp, also called a family relocation center. If you look at the video I mentioned earlier, they even have playgrounds for the children already waiting. I've gone into this long enough. Time to get to the heart and soul of the matter. How long can you survive? How many skill sets can you master? How long can even your small group of friends do any of the above? Just how long can your current vast amounts of money, that by the way will be worthless after the collapse of our economy, provide you? If the answer is not years or indefinitely, though indefinitely will not be needed, then it is nowhere near long enough. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm in no way bashing those that are prepping or demeaning or in any way putting down what they are doing. At least they realize the need to prepare for what is an inevitability and are attempting to do something. What I'm saying is that a huge majority are just being too short-sighted. Months of supplies and equipment just isn't going to be enough. A country this size, with our population, recovery will be in years, not in months. In other countries, when their economies collapsed, there was an outpouring of support and assistance from other countries around the world to help stimulate their economies and speed their recoveries. They had an influx of capital, food, etc. to help them minimize their collapse and get their economies back on the right track. When the U.S. economy collapses, it will affect the whole world. Every country on the planet depends on U.S. dollars right now. Do you think they will be able to or even want to help us when all of a sudden they cannot buy products, etc. for their own countries with what was once the world's currency when it is no longer solvent? How many of those countries will be even willing to help us after the year upon year of paying off our debts with what the world knows for all intensive purposes is a worthless unbacked currency? We will be on our own for a very long time. Our recovery will depend, for the most part, on the tenacity and never-quit attitude of the American people to recover. So I ask you again, how long will your preps last? How long can you survive without anything from FEMA or the government? Basically, how long until you end up in a FEMA camp or dead? 1 month, 2 months, 6 months? Some of you that may have formed in small groups may, and I do emphasize may, last a year without any assistance. What will you have to learn to live without? How will you repair your broken equipment? If you do survive through the recovery without help, then what? Now, economies throughout history, as I've already mentioned, for the most part do recover. Now, do you just want to survive a collapse, or do you want to thrive through it? Just how many skill sets needed to survive, but not only survive but thrive, do you and the members of your small group have? Now, I'm not talking about seen it or done it once or twice, read about it, studied it, but actually mastered it. You'll have to have them all mastered to thrive in the world that will be a reality for years to come. Even in larger groups, you'll need to coordinate with other like-minded large groups for what you need. No one, for lack of a better term, at present colony, will be able to do or produce everything that is needed to maintain a semblance of normalcy. You'll need to learn medical, dental treatment, mechanics, all the construction trades, machinists, blacksmiths. You'll have to master farming, careful raising of animals. Let's not mention the skill sets for hunting and butchering, security, communications, and this literally goes on and on. And I only list the very basics, but I think I got my point across. Unless you have a larger group, you will not be able to master all the skill sets necessary to truly survive and thrive in this environment for any realistic length of time. Now that you've thought of this, and knowing that you will need a larger group to thrive in the world to come, where will you look to establish your community? If you watch the videos online, look at this chart and that chart, they all point to the South, if not the deep South and central eastern United States. Now I pose you this question. Where is the best land for farming? Where is the best land for hunting and fishing? Where is the best air quality and readily available water? Where is the most survivable weather? Where ultimately is the best place in our great country to survive and thrive for the years needed? Is that in the South? My answer is a resounding no, it's not. Though it does require at least short-term planning, but for long-term planning, to survive and thrive, the South is one of the worst places to be for numerous reasons, only a few of which I will mention here. The climate of the South is the warmest. That given, it has the mildest winters, and yes, it does require the least short-term planning. But now think of these factors. How many people do you think will flock to the warmer climates when life gets hard, and they either don't have the foresight to prepare or to join a larger group? My guess is seeing how few sheeples in this country are actually preparing, it's going to be millions. Now look at the quality of the land there. How many different crops can you grow? What type of livestock can you raise? How deep or how far away is the water? How is the hunting? How feasible is it to cool the greenhouses for crops that do not do well in a warm climate? Now, taking the food chain and climate out of the picture, where is the best areas for power generation? Not just short-term, but sustained power generation. Not just a lot of sunshine, because if you only depend on one source of power, you're setting yourself up for failure. Where is the best air quality? You need to look at the current cycle of our planet. Where do the jet streams regularly travel to refresh the air? Do you really want to stake your survival in a land that is in drought? Tons of sunshine but little rain? How far down will you have to drill to get drinking water? And is drilling a well even a viable option to reach water? Now let's talk about heating and cooling. Electricity is at a premium. The power your solar panels can produce is only so much. Is there going to be enough timber for an alternate heat source? Even in the south, you'll need the heat in the winter. Most people put up videos saying what people want to hear. Truth is, the south is one of the worst places to be, in my opinion, for long-term sustained life and to thrive. Okay, enough of that. Let's get to what it's been leading up to. We have planned a community that I refer to as a trade center to do just this. While we do have certain skill sets, including military tactics, construction, and manufacturing, we lack a lot of the skills that are needed to thrive in what is a known certainty. We lack farming skills, livestock, medicine, etc., etc., etc. You can only take a military construction skill set so far. But we have designed a place we call the retreat. There is a link below this video that will take you to a Facebook page if you are interested in learning more about the retreat. It is a group of like-minded people that realize that our solo or in small groups will not have what it takes. Sure, there are those trying to be know-it-all macho and think that they don't need more than they already have, but they couldn't be more wrong. There is strength in numbers. Now, don't get me wrong, we are in no way anti-government. We actually admit freely that without a government there wouldn't be modern society. We do not seek to overthrow, replace, or in any way countermand our government in any way, though we will improvise, overcome, and adapt. First off, let me explain what the retreat is not. It is not in any way a neo-Nazi paramilitary or secluded cult. It in no way seeks to countermand or replace any local or national government with any hidden agendas. It is not any of those other negative things that have been splayed across the news and tabloids for years. What the retreat is a community of people bound together by a desire to thrive through the adversity to come. The retreat will be a trade center for those in local areas to buy, sell, and barter with. How we will do that is gone into detail on our Facebook page. We have a planned community that can easily sustain 200 people plus indefinitely. Though thankfully indefinitely will not be necessary. Hopefully some that watch this video will be enlightened and wish to join us. So if you don't join us, please search out and join a larger group in your area or even start your own. Because for this to work, there need to be several such communities in each area. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.